In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you about what is red thread womb healing and ancestral healing. We're going to be learning about what womb healing really is, how we can connect to our feminine ancestors to heal from the past and to pave a way of freedom for ourselves and future generations in our bloodline through this work. It's super powerful and it has been absolutely life-changing for me particularly. So I will share with you first of all my journey into this and my initiation and how I got to know this work, and then I will share with you how you can start on your journey if you feel the call into healing your womb space, healing your red thread, and connecting with your female ancestors too. So for me, my path began when I was in my early 20s and I had amenorrhea. Now, amenorrhea is an experience where your cycle, your menstrual cycle, completely disappears and you don't bleed. So I was told that I actually couldn't have children, and that sent me on a whole path to healing my fertility, healing my womb space, and reclaiming this part of me, even though the doctors had told me that it wasn't possible. Now, I felt like the medical system wasn't really serving me, so I looked towards herbalism, I looked towards holistic therapies. I had a yoga practice at the time, and I found this course that was around working with the cycle, the moon, and the womb. And I started this course and I started to connect with my womb space. And slowly but surely, over the course of the next few years, my cycle started to return. And I am now happy to say that I'm fertile. You will have heard me share this in a few of my other videos as well, around my journey in my womb healing experiences, if you've watched the rest of them. Now, that process really started with working with the cycles, and you'll see more about this in some of my other videos. If you're new to womb healing, maybe you want to start there, like how to work with your menstrual cycle, the moon. But if you're going a little bit deeper, this video is great because this is about how to go even further, right? So once my cycle had returned and I had really processed everything that was holding in my womb space, because our womb space actually holds all of the information through epigenetics from our mother, our grandmother, our great-great-grandmother, and also our own life cycle, right? So all of our past lovers who we have had sexual relationship with, we hold that imprint in our womb space. All of the pregnancies that did or didn't go through to full term, we hold that in our womb space. And we also hold the imprints of other kind of traumas and experiences of what it means to be a woman in this space too. And the process of really peeling back those traumas and releasing them also involves us going back to key moments in time in your lifetime. So those moments are referred to as rites of passage, your blood rites of passage in relation to the womb, your womb blood. Now the first one is your birth. So your birth, the way that you came into this world, believe it or not, is extremely significant, and it paves the way for how we learn to create and move through the world and how we see the world. So we go back there, we understand the imprint that we received, and then we create a new narrative, a new imprint through ceremony and ritual. Now the second blood rite of passage is your menarche. So your menarche was your first period, and this one's really important because in this one you really received what it means to be a woman. So if you were celebrated, then great, that's fantastic. It probably means that you had a great start into understanding what it means to be a woman. But for many of us, we pick up menstrual shame at this point because we're told to just put a pad in our knickers, to take some paracetamol and just get on with it like nothing has happened. And so this instills in us a sense of shame and a sense of mistrust of our own bodies, or if not mistrust, then at least dissociation and disconnect. Then we go on to your first sexual experience, and then your pregnancies and birth, and ultimately it will be the menopause as well, and then death as a rite of passage. So when we go back to all of these moments in time that we've gone through as women, our birth, our menarche, our first sexual experience, our pregnancies, and we really understand what it is that we received, and then consciously rewrite that narrative, reclaim it through rituals, through ceremonies, through awareness, through magic, we then become the woman that we were meant to be in this lifetime, before the world told us who we should be, right? And what I mean by the world is, the medical system, the patriarchy, all of our society, our conditioning that has made us believe that we need to shrink or act in a certain kind of way in order to be accepted as a woman. So it's a bit of a rewilding process, this journey. And then once we've done that, we've gone through your own lifespan, right? Your own rites of passage. What remains is your ancestral red thread. Now, the red thread is this beautiful thread, this red thread of blood of your womb that goes through from you to your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your sisters, and it connects us all. It's like a red river running through. Now, your particular red thread is significant for your mother line. So whatever your mum went through, whatever your grandmother went through, your great-grandmother on that side is really important. And the first step to doing this work is to get to know the stories. What did those women in your bloodline live through? What was life like for them? They might not be around to tell the story directly themselves anymore, but you can certainly ask people around about it. And you can also feel inside your own body what you feel, right? Because oftentimes where we feel like there's a contraction or a fear or a longing, it's often also related to our red thread. It's related to what many of the women in your family have experienced over and over again. And what looking at this offers us is the opportunity to take a different path. So rather than going round and round and round, like, your mum, your grandmother, your great-great-grandmother did this, and then you do the same. You get to interrupt it and take the path less trodden, so it starts to spiral up. And the evolution of your family, of you, starts to happen, and you start to expand beyond the limiting forces of the conditions or the traumas that have made you stay small or have made you behave in certain ways that actually aren't honoring your true soul's path. So this is a path of liberation and freedom, even though it involves looking at the past and disentangling. Now, what is said with this shamanic ancestral work is that when we do this work, we heal 7 generations back and we heal 7 generations forwards. So how beautiful that we get to really rewrite in our genetic codes, in our DNA through epigenetics. It's scientifically proven, not only just woo-woo, an idea, that we get to choose how we move forward. So the first step is to get to know the stories in your motherline ancestral heritage. So particularly your mother, what was her life like? Your grandmother, what was her life like? What did she love to do? What was challenging for her? How were her pregnancies? What was her marriage like? What was her life like? And your great-grandmother, and so on. And in this process, also take into account the culture, where you're from, the religion, the everything that might have been going on at the time. For example, my heritage is from Irish Gypsy. Catholic. And so there was something in my red thread around belonging. So always feeling like an outsider, always feeling like I had to flee because my trauma response was always to flight. And then my healing in my red thread was the understanding that I can leave and still belong. Now, it's not that the things that happened to us or our ancestors are bad necessarily. It's just about us reclaiming it. So my desire for roaming, for travel, has led me to live in Mexico, for example. And this is something beautiful, something that I would not want to change. But the reason behind it is different. I'm not fleeing for my life. I fled here for expansion. I adventured here for expansion, and I had the firm understanding that I can leave and still belong. So I'm sharing this with you now so that you can get an understanding of what this could look like for you, depending on where you come from, where your ancestors come from. For me, this path of ancestral, shamanic, red thread healing is so grounding and rooted and beautiful, because it's not like you're reaching out towards different philosophies from different traditions to kind of inspire you. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that when we're constantly doing that, reaching towards the East, because the East, for example, with yoga and Buddhism, etc., has many rich spiritual lineages. But when we learn where we come from, where our ancestors come from, we can start to tune into also our own spiritual path and like what is actually authentic for us or in integrity for us. So for me, connecting with Celtic wisdom because of where my red thread comes from, and connecting with Ireland and the seasons and the womb wisdom was absolutely key for me, because that is what my ancestors were doing in Ireland at that time. And it even brought me on to really exploring my family tree and my DNA, and understanding that my ancestors came from Southern Europe, and that's why I also have olive skin and blue eyes, because in Ireland the migration pattern was there's two different types, right? There's traditionally there would be red hair and fair skin, and then also there are Irish people who look obviously of many different ethnicities, but classically would be what we call the Black Irish, where there's blue eyes and brown hair and kind of olive skin, a little bit pale. Now, this was something that was really fascinating to me, because I didn't understand why I had this colouring. And the red thread work brought me to really understanding why I am the way I am, where I've come from, and it grounds me, right? It really roots me in my spirituality. So if you're feeling like you're wanting to really have some integrity and grounding in your spiritual practice, then I definitely recommend that you explore your family tree, your red thread womb healing. Now, if you are like, oh my gosh, this is a full body, yes, I want to go deep into this, whereas it's been my whole life, then I invite you to join me at one of our Rise Wild retreats. Our next one is in October on the magical island of Kea in Greece. So if you're curious about that, you can click the link in my bio and learn a little bit more. I'll see you soon.